Webinar on overcoming the challenges of working from home. This is the fourth of our remote working or working from home webinars, and a big part of the chat and the conversation we've had during those webinars and with people just in conversing with other clients is that there's a real sense that now that we're working from home, we're always on. We're working constantly, we're working longer, and not necessarily getting any more done. It's just taking us longer to do that. And so today's webinar is about looking at that particular aspect of working from home and giving you some tips of how we can best manage that. I'm Greg Bull. I'm a project director for Cox & Alliance. I've been in the business improvement space for over 10 years. A big part of that is leadership and management coaching. I've been working for a remote worker for close to 20 years, and I've come up with some what I think very effective ways for me to work. But I've also worked with other people that have come up with some very effective ways for them to work. And we'll talk about some of the techniques today that you can use. Joining us today and monitoring the chat box is Philip Wong. Phil is going to monitor the chat box. The last three webinars, we had lots of really good chat happening in the background, and Phil is able to monitor those questions and answer your questions, and he'll do that as we go. So please, if you have any questions, please feel free to add them in. Phil will respond to those. If you're having trouble with the audio or sound or the picture, use Chrome. That gives you the best result. Towards the end, I'm going to do a quick survey, a quick question. The objective today is to give you some information and then also find out what future support you may or may not need in the coming weeks and months. Today's agenda week. First, we're going to talk about the why. Why are we always on? It's really important when you're going to tackle a challenge is to understand the why. And so we're going to talk about why this is happening. As part of the solution, we're going to talk about identifying your best way of working, having a plan and sticking to it. Getting communications right. They can be a real impost on time, and they can really make our days inefficient. So we can talk about how to get the communications right. And as I said, there's a bit of a Q&A going on. We'll have a bit of discussion as we go. So prior to COVID-19, a number of the people in the workforce worked from home, and it was reported, and a number of surveys suggested that it was more productive than working from home. Since there's been a sudden change and move to remote working, we've found that that's not the case. And because there's much more to being a remote worker and working from home than simply changing location, moving people home. There's a lot more that needs to be done to ensure that can be a success. The challenge for many people when they move to remote work is this being always on. And what we're going to talk about now is why that is occurring. We're going to take a much closer look at why we're struggling with the change, and in understanding the why, we're going to be able to give you some tools and techniques to come up with a better way of working from home such that you can make it a success and it can be much more productive for you and for your teams. This data here relates to a survey which was done at the start of the year and prior to recent events. What it shows us on the left-hand side is, I guess, the real pros or the benefits of working from home. People, the flexibility of having a flexible schedule, the flexibility to work from anywhere, a lot of time saved not having to commute, and then increasing the amount of time you can spend with your family. They're cited as benefits. It's interesting to look at the challenges in that we have all these benefits, yet we're struggling to collaborate and communicate effectively. There's a real sense of loneliness or being isolated. The big theme of what we're talking about today is being able to plug, and those two earlier ones actually are part of that. And also distractions, which once again I feel is a part of being always on as well. That's a contributing factor. So the benefits are we really like and want the flexibility and freedom of working from home. We want when we want and more time to do it and less commuting time. What we're really struggling with is how do we manage that new freedom that we have? We're always on. There's this workaholism that's happening. We're working longer for maybe not always more effort or more outcomes. We're feeling lonely and isolated. We're procrastinating. We have distractions. And we're having trouble with collaboration and communication. So we've got the benefits there now, but we're struggling to manage that. So as we work through today, we're now going to look at why is this happening and how can we actually put some things in place to actually benefit from the good stuff of working from home. So why have people struggled to adapt? Well, primarily it's because the boundaries have changed. We've moved from a consistent, well-defined set of routines and norms to a loose, ill-defined workday. And until we get some definition back, we're going to really struggle with the problem of what we've got. If you think back to the typical day that most of us had, and this changed a little bit for the sort of who you are and the jobs you have, but typically we're at home, we get ready, we commute to work, and for some people that's long, for some people that's short. Then when you get to work, there are meetings, there are often set meeting times, you might have huddles, you might have scrums, you'll collaborate with your team, you'll have some data, you'll have breaks, and there'll be the typical rituals of going to the coffee shops at the mid-morning or maybe at the start of the day. There's the lunch breaks, going to the lunchroom, socialising with people. Then afternoon work, maybe another coffee break or walk around the office. And then at the end of the day, people start to get up and go, and there are the triggers, the norms happen. Commute back again. Back once you get home, typically a lot of us are able to then switch off, have a meal, have some family time, go to bed, and then it starts all over again. What's happened now that we've moved from home is those boundaries, those start and ends to the day have disappeared, and those rituals and routines that we had through the day have also become blurred. And so there's a lack of definition and boundaries, and that has meant that our workday, which might have spanned 8 or 9 hours previously, has now been able to expand into a much larger space. Essentially, without the boundaries, work feels available time. So removal of those habits, and so a lot of those habits and routines created boundaries, not just at the start and end of the day, but during the day as well. What that meant is that work has expanded from what was a finite start and finish time to a much bigger period of time. Work has filled available time. So the reason we're always on is we've allowed the work that we normally did, which took about probably 6 hours of our 8-hour day, allowing for breaks and things, to now occupy our minds. I say the word occupy our minds because we're always at home. People are finding it hard to disassociate from work. And so these things, from the moment you get up to the moment you go to bed, are occupying your mind. So your day has expanded to 12 or 14 hours. We look at how do we get that back? How do we get those routines and norms back now that we're working from home? The way to do that is to start to build some new boundaries. So the boundaries before, which we had, were often dictated to us by the start and finish time, the need to commute, and those sorts of things. So we need to build in a new schedule, some physical boundaries around schedules and routines, physical boundaries about where you work and when you work, where you work. Then also the way and how we communicate with our teams. Critical to this is when we have meetings, when we don't have meetings, we used to get up and chat to people and collaborate with people. Now we might be doing VCs and phone calls. We need to get to a communication protocol and some boundaries and some protocols that enable it to be efficient and effective again as it was before. So once you have your physical boundaries in place, it's important to then say, okay, let's get my mindset right. Previously, you transitioned from being at home, commuting, being at work, have a break, off a break, lunch room, etc. So your mindset went from being from home me to the work me, to me being on a break and socialising to back to work again. So we need to come up with some ways of getting our mindset to be on and off work and when that starts. Similarly, as part of that, within a finite workday, with some clear expectation around what we could or could not achieve within that. And so setting those expectations once again is another boundary around this is what I'm going to achieve for the day, how am I going to get this done? So the first part of establishing your physical boundaries is the time, is design your workday. Critical to this is understanding how you best work. What is your best? When are you at your best? Are you a morning person? Are you an afternoon person? Do you work best in short periods of time, having sort of multiple small breaks, or do you work better in long periods of time? For me, I'm more of a morning person. I try to get the big meaty stuff done, the challenging stuff done, the important stuff done, the high priority stuff done at the start of the day. I put the headphones in and I work for a period of time before I have my break, and then I move forward. So that's the works best for me. There are other people, you'll know how and when you work your best, or you might take a bit of reflection to say, okay, think about when do I do my best work, and how do I recreate that now that I'm working from home. So you start to create your bookends of the day. So have a finite start and a finite finish time, and stick to them. So these are the times that I work. I get up early and I work from here to here. It might even be you have a block in the morning and a block in the afternoon, but have some bookends around start and finish times. Within that, plan to have your breaks. Take these to coincide with your best way of working. So if you're better at working at 1 hour blocks or half-hour blocks or 2 hour blocks, build your breaks around to fit that. So, and then you start to set yourself, okay, these are the day parts. So you've designed your workday around, this is how I work best. I work best in these periods of time at this time of day in this way. So that that structure then forms. What that then does is you've now created a structure of available hours. And so in a typical workday that would say 8 or 9 hours long, you might have 6, 7 hour available hours in the day where you get work done. So now you've built a day that has those equivalent number of hours. And so within that time, you say, okay, these are my work hours. What needs to be done during these day parts based on my available hours. Another important part is once you've established your bookends of your day is creating a separation from work. It's understanding how this is where I work. So I'm lucky enough, I have an office space within my home that I can work in. But there are times in the past when I've had a kitchen table, or I've had a nook in another room or a desk in a nook, and that's been my workplace. And so it's saying, oh, this is where I work, this is my workplace. It could be one. It could be a number of places. It could be in the morning you work from here, in the afternoon you work from there. Prior to social distancing, I used to go to another place. I used to maybe go to a coffee shop or a library or something like that, just to change a bit of scenery, be able to create a new zone, do those things. Now we can't do that now, obviously, but think about do you need to maybe work in this location in the morning, in this location in the afternoon. Particularly now, I've got 4 kids at home. They're all doing distance learning, and so the workplace has changed. We now have different distractions. I used to have the distraction of being no one at home at all, and I'll be distracted with the fact that there was no one there. And so getting to the fridge, the TV, and those things were a challenge. And that's how I helped develop I need to put the headphones in and drown those things out. So similarly here, it's now we have people working in the house. It's how do I build a separation from them? Do I create a separation by blocking out the definitions? A colleague of mine, he puts a note up on the wall to his study because he's got kids at home and they're younger kids and they often need help from their parents. And so it says, I'm at work, and then lists out if you need this, there's a sandwich in the cupboard, there's a drink here, there's drink there, and lists out and says, I'll be out at such and such a time. So his separation is created by putting a notice on the door to his office. It might just be telling people in your household that you're now at work. I often say to here, I say, okay, I'm now going to work. I'm now on a telephone call. I'm now on a video conference. These are things that happen. So it lets people know that I'm at work, I've transitioned to this space, and I'm creating that separation. And agreements could be agreements with people in the house. You know, we'll work in these locations and we'll have our breaks this time. We won't distract and disturb each other. So it's important to be able to create that separation both for you in your own mindset, but also for others and around you, and creating a set place to work. The other key thing I think is to avoid this always on is establish your separation with your time boundaries. So this part of the house is my office between these time periods, and so I'm going to work, I'm leaving work. And so have a transition into that space for these periods of time and then out of them again. And that helps create a ritual and a routine to set to. So think about how you might do that. At the end of the day, log out. If you have a work computer or work applications, then shut them down, turn them off. If you use your computer also for personal stuff, then shut down the work stuff and then use it. You might watch Netflix or Stan or whatever. But really make a point of ending the day and shutting down, closing down the work applications, shutting the door. Remember, years ago we moved from we moved to open plan, and then open plan was great, but we then had to go to clean desk policy, or even a lot of places now move to hot desking. And so the ritual of simply packing up your laptop, when we had the clean desk policy, we would put everything into a box at the end of the day, put it into a drawer, lock the cupboard, take the key home, and that was that going home, bookending end of the day. And then in the next day, you get the things out. So I know in a lot of workplaces we have where we're doing hot desking, or is you have a locker and you go get your stuff out of the locker and you create your space and get going. Do the same thing in your remote or home-based workation. Pack up, put things away, put them in the cupboard, put them in a box, and then restart the day again. Create that physical separation, create a place for the duration of your workday, and create those boundaries around when you're working. Communication, this is really important. It's important to, you've built your physical boundaries, you know when your workday starts and ends, you've got your workplace. The communication piece now is really, really important as well. You're at home, many of your colleagues, or most of your colleagues are likewise at home. So you need to respect that when you're at work, and respect that you have customers. So you need to build your day around what's important for my organization, what's really important for my customers. So I'm on and working, I'm available to do what needs to be done for my customer when it needs to be done. And also respect your own personal needs. I need to take breaks. I need to bookend my day. I need to condense my day to a thing. So thinking about that is, when's the best time for us to have meetings? And we're going to have huddles, we're going to have meetings, we're going to have check-ins. When's the best time to do that? Now, for a manager, and for a team, it's okay, this is people's best way of working. These are the routines my team have created. Those routines match and fit with the requirements of the business. So where can we now communicate efficiently and effectively? So think about, we're going to have these meetings. Now, some of those meetings might be VC, and VC is very good for group meetings, conveying lots of information. But do we need to do a VC every time we would normally just walk up and talk to someone? Maybe we can pick up the phone. Do we need a VC when we check in? Can we pick up the phone? Or do we, if we're working with teams, can we do it 2 or 3 people in little discrete separate work teams? How do we make those effective as we possibly can? What do we think about, what we need to talk about in those meetings? And how can we get that two-way conversation happening as quickly as it used to in the past? A lot of the time we had teamwork, you'd collaborate. And particularly if you're used to working in a workplace where you've got 2 or 3 of your team members around you, and it was a matter of walking someone's desk or calling out over the partition or getting someone's attention. How do you recreate that in the virtual environment? Are we using chat to do that? Do we send someone a message saying, I need to talk to you, can we talk? The key thing here is, as you recall back from those early challenges, collaboration's become a real problem. What happens is we get so used to working in isolation or working at home, is we try to, in the past we might have very quickly asked for help or sought an opinion or look for someone to collaborate with. How does this look to you? How does it sound? We're now spending a lot more time probably overthinking, overworking stuff that we used to just bounce ideas off each other. So remember, if your work style and best way of working is to communicate, collaborate with people, talk to those people that you do that with and say, what's the best way to do that? What does your workday look like? When are the times that we can talk and tic-tac and compare notes? Can I send you a chat message? Think about how you used to work and how you can recreate those collaborative mechanisms that we used to use. It can be chat, it can be just picking up and having a chat on the phone, and maybe you need to do video, maybe you need to do screen share, it might just be a quick email, but think about, we used to do it this way and it take 2 or 3 minutes. Now it's taking us 10 or 15 minutes. That's not good. How can we get to that 2 or 3 minute exchange of ideas again? Because once again, it's creating those protocols in communication to get back to being as efficient, as effective as what you were. Then there's informal and social conversations. Believe it or not, a lot of our time during the day previously is spent, we do socialise, often for micro socialisation period. It might be for 10, 15 seconds here as we walk to the printer, as we go to the coffee room, etc., and we chat to people. And depending on the type of person you are, some people get that energy from having people around them and having those conversations. So think about if that's your work style and way of working, then how do you recreate some of that to get some of that social interaction happening and have some social time? It could be, yes, we're going to have these efficient, effective meetings, but it's okay to have a little bit of banter here and there to get that energy going, to give some mental relaxation of having not always being on all the time. So think about how do we recreate some of that stuff? How do we recreate the lunchroom feeling? How do we talk about the football or the sport or whatever it is your common interests are? Those things are all completely normal. So communication is normal, and all the things, formal meetings, informal meetings, the water cooler conversations are all normal. How do we make that happen again, efficiently and effective again, and so that we're not chewing up hours of time and filling our day with stuff that's not adding to our day? We're just recreating as efficiently as we used to in the past, because previously we were getting all this stuff done and we were socializing and we were very productive. How do we do that again so we get that mental stimulation and energy that we need to do that? Mindset is really, really important. And this is as we spoke about before, if you think back to the diagram before where we had the work day, the get up, the commute, the get to work, the breaks, etc. Part of that commute and transition to work, your mind was going from, this is the home me, this is the commute me, this is now I'm at work me, this is the break me. I might go and have a coffee, I might go and stand in the queue, I might chat with my friend. 2 or 3 of us might go and go to the lunchroom. We might do the quiz at lunchtime. You have a work persona that you establish as part of those transitions. So it's important to think about, now that I'm at home and I'm not doing those rituals, how do I arrive at work and start the day? How do I get into my work persona? It might just simply be a matter of saying, okay, I'm now at work. It might be and forming that transition and getting yourself into that place. But it's really, really important. Remember the customers. So part of your work persona is, this is what I'm doing for my customers. So a great way to get into your work persona is okay, what do my customers need from me today? How can I do this for my customers? How can I move this project forward? How can I get these things done? How do I work for my customers? Similarly, we spoke about engaging with your peers. What is your work persona in engaging with your peers and ensuring you continue to do that? If you're used to collaborating and working and bouncing off ideas, part of your work persona needs to be, okay, how do I recreate that again? Talk to your peers, talk to your manager, and you'll know how you work best together. And it's about thinking about how do we recreate that? How do we help ourselves maintain that work persona, work mindset? Have a plan to do that, stick to it. Taking breaks is really important. Having that work persona and knowing how to turn it on and off, it is really critical in overcoming this feeling of being at work all the time. When I work from home, my routine has been for years and will be for many years, is around about 10 o'clock in the morning, I get a coffee. And I used to previously go to a coffee shop, or if I'm on a client side, I find a local coffee shop, I go there. And part of going to the coffee shop, standing in the queue, ordering the coffee, you mentally switch off, or you might sometimes think about something that's going on, but it takes you away from the workplace. It enables you to switch off. How do you still do that at home? So if you've got your place where you work, is take your break somewhere else. If you're used to going to a coffee shop, go out into the garden, stand out on the balcony, go into another room, walk around the block, whatever it is that works for you, getting that coffee, is take those breaks and replicate what you used to do. for you to socialise during those breaks is maybe there's a time to say, okay, speak to some of your colleagues, find out which ones have a similar routine to you, and take a break together. Pick up the phone, have a chat, have a coffee, do the quiz, and then back to work. Try to recreate some of those rituals and routines that you had. But take the breaks. Teach yourself to go from work me, home me, break me. Teach yourself to turn your mind on and off and do that. It's a really good skill to be able to transition for your personas, because it enables you to switch off, switch on, and get that mental rest that you need. Similarly, at the end of the day, go home, switch off, end of the day. Actually make a point of saying this is the end of the day, as you would previously have got on the train, got in the car, and headed off to back home again. Do the same with your mindset. Switch off, turn off. That is the day. I've done what I set out to do. Which is the other critical element of being able to start and end your day and take your breaks as and when you should, and working the best way you can, is setting yourself really clear expectations around what can be achieved, not just during the day, but breaking it down into each of those individual chunks. If you work for 5 hour or so blocks a day, and that's when you're most productive, then for each of those hours in between those breaks is, what is it that I can and can't do in those hour breaks, and set the target to get that done. You'll know what you can and can't do mostly, and you'll know what you hope to achieve. If during that break you need to collaborate with someone, then set it up, make it happen. But think about what it is you need to get done for the day. What are the highest priority items your customers need? What are the highest priority things your business needs, and what needs to be progressed to where? You might be working on a project. You might have a work list of items that need to be worked through. You might have a list of claims, a bunch of transactions need to be done. Whatever it is set real clear. This is my work day, and this is how and when I'm going to do these things. So break the day down into those chunks that fit with your best way of working. Then for each of those chunks, make that achievement happen. So set the plans and targets based on your business and priorities. Make yourselves accountable. When you have your morning huddles, your check-ins. Talk to your team, talk to your peers, talk with your manager. If you're a manager, talk with your team about, okay, what is it we're going to achieve today? What do our customers need? What does the business need? Where are we going to progress to, not just by the end of the day, but how's the work going to progress through those day parts, and help each other achieve that. That way, if you're very disciplined about knowing and understanding what you can achieve, and you set yourself those targets and you help each other to achieve those within each of those day parts, your ability to conclude your day and finish and then know you've achieved what was meant to be achieved today means you will switch off and be ready for the next day. You might even, a lot of people I have worked with have actually do a very similar thing, but they plan tomorrow at the end of today. And so when they get through today, they say, what did I achieve today? What do I need? And so when they start the next day, they've got a very clear plan in place. Whether you plan at the end of the day or the start of the day, it's important to, particularly so with remote working, and particularly around avoiding this challenge of being always on. It's understanding what can I be achieved in my workday, and when, and doing that. Sharing that with your manager and with your team, and then helping each other achieve that. The critical thing here is you have to expect to achieve your plan within the boundaries of your day. So one is, if you make it too easy, you'll procrastinate. You won't get that sense of achievement. So set yourself, okay, I can get this done. It's a big effort, but I can get this done. Force yourself to be productive in those periods, and set yourself those targets and expect to achieve them. So as you're getting close to the end of the day, one of the real challenges, and a part of this feeling of isolation comes from, we get towards that end of the day. So say your day ends at 5 o'clock, for instance, it gets around 3:30, 4 o'clock, and people start to, energy levels start to drop down, and it's easy to put things off, slow down and say, I'll do that tomorrow, I'll put it off, it's nearly done, I'll finish tomorrow. It's have the discipline to actually fill the day and complete the tasks And that way, you then don't have that awkward period at the end of the day where you're kind of busy, kind of not, kind of working, kind of not. Is set yourself a goal of, okay, this is the last hour of the day. These are the things I'm going to get done. I'm going to achieve them. Now, you may have got ahead of your plan, and okay, that might be great. Is there stuff you can pull forward and get that done? And get that done in the day part. It could be, okay, no, I achieved today. That's awesome. Plan for tomorrow, and then switch off, finish. That's all I need to do today. Switch off, finish. Have the discipline to do that. So think about what works best for you. Depending on your situation, if there's backlog of work and you got stuff done quicker and you're more productive than you thought, then okay, eat into the backlog for tomorrow. If you're on track, then okay, pat yourself on the back, reward yourself, but always finish at the end of the day, be it your bookend or your achievements, and get them and make sure those achievements and if are set for what would be about right for the day. So having those physical and mental boundaries in place, it's now it's about building a habit. So you need to have this discipline and say, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to try this out. I'm going to stick to my best. My best way of working is this. These are the times I work. Put the headphones in. Set your plan. This is what I hope to achieve today. I'm going to be disciplined to achieve that and make it work, and do that. Respect your team. Workday. So respect your workday. So these are my hours of my day. These are when I take my breaks, and be rigid about those as best you can. You may need to flex from here to here, but respect that that's your day. Similarly for your workmates and your team, that's their day. So if you know that your colleagues finish at 5, but you like to work late, 6 and 7, it's not picking up the phone and changing their day. It's about at the start of the day saying we need to collaborate on something. And it's arranging the time where your days intersect to do that. So respect how your teams work. Commit to your plan. I said before, set those expectations, commit to them, and commit to achieve them by the end of the day. And make yourself. If you've overestimated what you could do and you've got it wrong, then that's okay too. Readjust. You'll get better at planning your day as you go, but make a real effort. If you didn't achieve your expectations, because when you reflect back and go, actually, I procrastinated here, I procrastinated there, and had I been more disciplined, I would have achieved my day. Then the next time you will achieve the plan. So part of not being on all the time is setting those stretching but realistic expectations, being disciplined to achieve them, and getting it done, and then holding yourself to your account to getting stuff done within your workday, and then reflecting on how the day went. And if you've achieved the day quite easily, said, okay, were my expectations a bit soft, and could I have done more, or because for that. Alternatively, did I overestimate and whatever? Or actually, I got it right. I just procrastinated, or these other things all had these other interruptions. I hadn't planned well. Things will change, but stick to discipline. Test, measure, learn, and have that discipline to evaluate, to improve, and keep building on it. And it will come. Your ability to set those boundaries and stick to them will get better and better. The more you try and be disciplined to stick to them and make them work. If you're a manager of a team, your job is to help your team to develop their best way of working and then help them stick to it. And that is by being present. It's communicating with them from now, and the communication at the start will be much more than later on. Is have this conversation. When do you work your best? Have you established the boundaries? Do you have a workplace, a place to work? Help them build those boundaries and help them set the plans. Hold them to account. Cognizant of what your customer is needing to do. It's great to build a day that suits us, but we're here to serve our customers and do what's best for them and for our organisation. So our job is to create that. So as a manager, it's help your team build their best way of working. And then you need to mold that all together and create an operating rhythm for your whole team so that we can work effectively together and collaborate effectively together. So those communication protocols, when do we work, when do we have our huddle? Had a great conversation, I think just yesterday, with someone where they used to have their huddle in the morning. However, as it turned out, everyone was at their most productive in the morning. And so what made more sense was for them to actually have their huddle at the end of the day. So plan, so how do we go today, and and then plan for tomorrow as part of the end of day routine. It just happened to work for them. So they were creative in saying, well, actually, let's do our high priority work in the morning. Let's have our get together and huddle in the afternoon when we're all we need a bit of socialization. We need a bit of chat. We've got a lot done. Let's change our workday around. So so your role as a manager is to say, okay, how does my team work best? And how do I then create a rhythm so we can help each other achieve that? When do we have our huddles? When do we have our check-ins that fits with what our customers' needs are and what our needs are? Hold yourself and your team to account to achieving that within the workday. So your job as a manager is to support and help people design their best way of working. Help them set stretching but achievable plans that match the customer's needs and expectations, and build a rhythm that supports that, and then hold ourselves to account. So as we work our way through the day, how did you go with your plan? Are you on track or off track? Did you do X, Y, Z? Be very specific what you talk about. If not, find out the reasons why. Did someone bite off more than they can chew? Are they struggling with separation and distractions and those things? Coach them and help them do that. So your job as a manager to be present, particularly in these early stages as we build and adapt and create these ways of working in rhythms. Our job as a manager is to help people get there. Similarly, they can help you. We're all in the same situation. A lot of managers haven't worked from home before either. A lot of managers haven't managed a remote workforce before. So have the conversations with your team about what's working, what's not working, what can we do better, should we do it this way, should we do it that way, are our meetings too long, what do we need to do to prepare to shorten them. For instance, in a meeting, maybe we recently had a meeting with a client where in the past we do these as workshops, and the workshops were very effective. However, doing it over multiple Zoom cameras was very different. So we set a lot more pre-work prior to the workshop to facilitate the conversation so we could actually be as effective as we used to be in the workshops compared to what we are now. So think about, okay, do we need to prepare differently for our huddles and meetings that we go to? Because it's much harder for us to do what we need to do over Zoom, and therefore we need to prepare and do things a little differently. So think about that, work about that as a group and a team. As how do you develop a better way of working for all of you to be more effective and start to shrink the day back to its normal size. So in quick summary, it's about establishing boundaries. The reason we are working all the time and I feel like we're always on is because the boundaries have gone and we haven't created new boundaries. So think about those physical boundaries, the time, start, end day, bookend the day, and when you take your breaks. Establish separation, a physical separation, either using things like headphones, a place to work, and move in and out of that place when you're working or not. Communication protocols. How should we be meeting? Do we need to VC all the time? Probably not. VC for these meetings. This is how we prepare. These are the meetings we do over voice. This is when we use chat. When we need to collaborate or do that sort of over the partition chat, this is how we do it together. These are how and when we work together. This is when we communicate with each other. Talk about that as a group and establish those best ways of communicating and collaborating together. It'll be a combination of things. We're so lucky we have multiple communication tools at our disposal these days. Use as many of them as work for your team. Don't fixate on VC because we're used to being face-to-face in the office. Some things can be more efficiently done these days with a quick phone call or a chat or an email than try and hook up a VC. Physical boundary, creating that psychological mindset, your work persona. I think for me, this is the most important thing. This is the home me, this is the work me, this is the break me, this is what I do in these things, is transitioning yourself to and from those, recognizing that in the past I used to sit on the train and the transition was quite simple. I get on the train, I get to work, I'll go from being at home to being at work. And in the course of that commute, my brain would get into work mode. It's much more sort of black and white now. Probably now you're at home, it's okay, now I'm at home, now I'm at work. How do I create that mindset and persona and what I do to turn it on and turn it off and be disciplined at that? To Set the day to be finite. What are the expectations that I hope to achieve? Not just for start to end of the day, but for those day parts. You've set your best way of working, your time boundaries. You know when you're at your most productive. So what is it I'm going to do? Break the day into those specific groups and achieve that. Be disciplined. So stick to that plan. Be pragmatic though. If it's not working, okay, think back why it's not working. Is it not working because I still haven't got my separation and boundaries right, or is it not working for another reason? And be self-aware to evaluate how it's going on. Help each other out. If someone's struggling with a particular boundary, or what are your teammates doing? What suggestions they have? What techniques can we offer someone else to maybe try? Remember, we all have different personalities, so different things work for different people. So try some different ways of doing things. There will be a way that works for you that enables you to create these boundaries of achieving what you need to do. Most importantly, it's about holding yourself and your team to account. It's helping us get ourselves back to a normal work pattern where we can have a normal work day in a normal expanse of time, and not allowing that to fill our lives and being always on and always at work. Okay, we'll run a quick survey. So there is a chat box. There is an indicator which you can click on to put the survey scores in. The questions are: survey. If the remote workforce is the future, what are our major concerns? Is it 1, internal, developing an operating rhythm that is truly productive? 2, developing leadership management capabilities for the virtual world. So it's very different leading a virtual team. So do we have the right capabilities, and do we need to do more of that? Is it an external focus? Are we having an efficient and productive relationship with our suppliers? So those relationships have changed also. So how well are we communicating with our suppliers? And similarly, how efficient and productive are our relationships with our customers? So if we could enter those in, that will help us. We're going to use this data to think about what are the next webinars we might use in the future. So I'll give you a moment or two to complete those. I think you can do more than one at a time, so check those, put those in, and we'll wrap that up now. That's excellent. So we've got plenty of responses have come in, and so that will serve very nicely for the future. Thank you all. Hope that has been a productive and useful session for you. We will circulate the slides from this in an email, and also a link to review the webinar for yourselves, or you can pass that link on to others in the future. As I said before, Coxon Alliance, we work in the business improvement space. Please feel free to reach out to us if you have any needs or challenges around remote working, or developing management leadership and capability around remote working. Either if you know someone from Coxon Alliance already, contact them directly by calling them, or alternatively, you can contact us on remoteworking@coxonalliance.com. Thank you for your time today. We look forward to talking to you again at our next webinar in a week's time. Thank you.